Are we live? Okay. Riley Showman, Office of Legislative Counsel. So this is the Senate proposal of amendment. It is instances of amendment to H 942 miscellaneous agricultural subjects. So the first instance of amendment is adding a definition of convenience store. And so what this does is in the retail pricing standards piece, there's the unit pricing, which is the price per pound, per ounce, per standard measured weight. And then there's a total selling price, which is the sticker price that you will expect to pay at the register. And so that's a preview because we're defining convenience store here in the definition section of the of the unit pricing piece. And convenience stores are defined as motor fuel stores that sell everyday items such as motor fuel, tobacco products, made-to-order food, snacks, beverages, serve as a quick, accessible retail option for consumers. And the Secretary of Agriculture has the discretion to determine whether a retail establishment is a convenience store. And then the second piece.
Sorry, the Secretary of Agriculture.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then the second piece is using that definition of convenience store. So we define the definition of convenience store and we're putting it into the exception section. And so as a reminder, the exception section largely applies to the unit pricing piece. So the price per ounce or whatever it is, the cost per ounce, and having that standardized. So retail stores at less than 7,000 square feet of space are already exempt from the unit pricing piece, but that does not apply to retail establishments of a company having 2 or more sales locations as part of that company. And so what this amendment would do would add convenience stores to the list of things. So it doesn't matter if a convenience store has 2 or more sales locations. It could still be under the exception. And then the rest of these exceptions, they're numbered differently, but they're the same exceptions that are in the underlying bill.
Great.
So we had, I believe, somebody from Stewart's come in, right, and testify about this. Basically, it's addressing their concerns.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions on that piece?
So the underlined language there, 3, 4, that is new to statute, but not new to us.
That's correct. That's correct.
It's identical to what we have.
That is correct. The only language that is new to this committee is the convenience store piece right here on number 2, and then the numbering is different.
So the second instance of amendment strikes out our subsection A and puts in all of this as a new A.
Yeah, and I did it that way just for a drafting point of view because when you insert something into a list, you have like 5 instances of amendment of all the stuff that you have to change. And so it's just easier just to strike that whole section. But the only thing that changed was inserting this convenience store piece into the unit pricing exception there.
Greg, since you may be called on to answer any questions, are you okay with, you follow this okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all studying the difference between the underlying bill and this.
Yeah.
I think I get it.
Yeah. It's fairly straightforward.
Just big picture, is this Senate concurring with us with further instances of amendments, or are we the ones who are going to have to concur with this potentially?
Yeah, we passed the bill. These are the Senate changes.
And then the Senate passed it with these amendments.
Yeah. So we will.
We could concur with their further instances.
Yeah, I think what I'm hoping the committee will do after we've seen the rest of the instances is move to concur.
Okay.
Or recommend that we concur. Yeah.
Any more questions on the unit price piece? Okay. So equine farming. Senate Agriculture proposed permitting equine farming to be eligible to enroll in the use value appraisal program, both for the agricultural land and the buildings. And so Senate Finance proposed an amendment that the Senate accepted to turn that piece into a study. So the Commissioner of Taxes shall study and provide recommendations for including equine farming in the use value appraisal program. And the commissioner shall submit recommendations to the respective agriculture committees and the respective finance committees on or before December 15th, 2026. They give an analysis of potential fiscal impact of permitting agricultural land and farm buildings. So those 2 pieces, the land and the buildings, that are used for equine farming to enroll in the use value program. They are going to look at equine farming for gain or for profit which is the only deviation from the definition of equine farming that's in 6001, 10 VSA 6001. That's part of the definition of farming more broadly. And so they are going to look at equine farming for gain or for profit, and provide those recommendations in December.
So currently, with use value, I know buildings have for equine have not been allowed, but pasturing horses or haying for your horses, are those not eligible for UVA?
So yeah. So it's that is an interesting question, because potentially using the land for grazing animals, grazing livestock, and equine are included in that.
In the RAF.
Could be eligible to enroll that land in use value. So there is that potential piece there. But equine farming more broadly is things, raising and managing the equines themselves, like for whatever purpose, like riding rings, shows, maybe therapies or things of the sort, just off the top of my head. And so that, so you are kind of right in that regard, and that it is possible for pasturing livestock to enroll in use value in that land.
Now, right?
Yeah.
But this, I get it as far as like, it's the infrastructure that goes with equine for profit or gain, right? And that would be everything from indoor arenas to even, outdoor riding rinks or dressage.
Yeah. And the important thing to remember too is you enroll two things in use value, right? You enroll the land and you enroll the buildings, and there's different requirements for each, right? And so you can add equine farming more broadly to get the whole scope of what an equine farmer might do to enroll the agricultural land that you have for the farming. But it's the buildings that is also a piece. And to enroll your buildings in use value, there's some criteria, but the primary criteria is being a farmer. And to be a farmer, you have to earn half of your income from the business of farming. And so, and when this was an amendment to the program, it would be a farmer earns half of their income from the business of equine farming, right? To be able to enroll their equine farm buildings in the use value appraisal program. And I think that that's important to keep that in mind, is that, so there's kind of two different pathways, two different tax assessments and things of that sort to enroll equine farming into the use value program.
Just for clarity, so sounds like currently there are allowances for equine farming to enroll the land in current use, but not necessarily the buildings. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, if you're pasturing the horses, sure, that is a potential avenue to enroll the land, but the buildings, no. There's not a pathway. That's much clearer. And
That's the main difference.
Yeah, and that would be the largest difference.
So if you're boarding horses, and you let them out. So if you make so much a month from your stall, income.
Potentially. And the important piece to remember on this is that this is a study. And so the Commissioner of Taxes is going to look at this much more broadly and provide recommendations about enrolling both the land and the farm buildings, because it's the land that a person might be using for equine farming might not just be for pasturing, right? It might be for other things, like for riding and showing and things of the sort. It might not be for pasturing. And so they'll look at things about enrolling the agricultural land and the farm buildings in. And as a study, that's what this is.
There was some interest in having, and there is interest in extending current use to include buildings. And the concern was that there's the cost of that from the education fund, and it has an upward pressure on property taxes. So in the current environment where everyone's concerned about property taxes, we want to be careful before jumping into that. So the study will help. Jeff?
And with that said, Chair, two questions. You use the term gain or profit.
Mhm.
Gain is income, even if
you're operating at a loss, which is common with many of our businesses.
Dairy farm.
Dairy, livestock, and equine, but gain means an attempt
Mhm.
at profitability. And the second, we heard testimony, this could have been a year or two ago. It's more that arenas, which are very expensive to put up and are only used for training or indoor use, were not eligible. And people were getting a tax bill valuing at $500,000 or whatever, and it just basically, whereas you could have a 999 foot milking parlor. And that was exempt from taxation. So there's an equity piece there. Obviously, the residential part of the farm is not exempt.
Right.
But it's for those structures that are critical. And maybe the barn with stalls would be or should be exempt already, but it was some of these other single purpose, but definitely critical to a certain stature of equine farming that became an overbearing tax burden.
I think that's exactly right. I think the important piece to remember is that enrolling the buildings for equine farming, there isn't a clear pathway to do that in current law. And so this study would kind of look at that piece and provide recommendations or provide an assessment. And well, it does provide recommendations of what that would look like, what the impact would be, because Senate Finance was concerned about the lack of detailed information about what the fiscal impact of that might be. And so that's why they proposed a study, and that's what the Senate is sending the House to consider.
John Bartholomew, I think, has an online hand up.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that I understand correctly because we're talking about possible changes, but my understanding of the Senate amendment is that it doesn't make any changes. It just puts into effect a study committee to look at it. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, Bradley's nodding, and that's our understanding as well.
Okay, thank you.
John O'Brien.
Yeah, just on the equity point, a couple other things. I just hope that the study group looks at things like, I'm just right off the top of my head think, well, if you have an Amish dairy farm that uses draft horses and has a stable, that's not an equine business specifically. If they're using horses, so all of a sudden is the stable not eligible that they keep their draft horses in, or you could say Greg is going to diversify and have bridle paths that ride around Cabot Plains, but it's not his main business. It's just another piece of his diversified agriculture. And it's not yet again, equine related.
I think Bradley may or may not be the right person to answer that question.
Right, I'm just making
Good
comments.
to have it on the record. Do you know, Bradley, whether currently?
I know like 80% of the answer. And so, I mean, the gist is if you're using the land for purposes that you are eligible to enroll, having horses likely won't make you out of compliance. But I mean, there's always possibilities, right? And I think that's where my expertise runs out. Is like, is this really an equine farm, or it was enrolled as a cattle farm but it looks kind of like an equine farm. Is it really an equine farm? And what would that look like? And that's where my expertise runs out. And I think that might be the crux of your question.
So it'd be good for the study group to be thinking about exactly that situation.
Right.
Because that's a real situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's called an equipment shed for the Amish, by the way.
Okay, we probably should move along here. There's
There's a few small ones.
Okay.
And so this section amends the section about the Rural Economic Development Initiative, or READY. And so this program provides assistance to municipalities and businesses to seek funding for agriculture-related businesses or agriculture-related activities. And so currently they can only operate in small towns and rural areas of 5,000 people or less. This amendment would add a project called Community Development Initiatives, which means priority projects located throughout the state that support agriculture, historic preservation, outdoor recreation, and other critical economic and development needs. So essentially what this does is it kind of opens up READY's ability to assist municipalities and assist farmers throughout the state, even if they happen to be located in a more urban area, if they fall into priority projects and the goals that READY is supposed to pursue. READY is committed to primarily supporting rural areas. So you see that that language added in that they primarily support rural areas. But they wanted this flexibility, and Senate Agriculture agreed that, you know, there is farming activities that happen in places that aren't just of towns of 5,000 people or less. You know, there's farming in Chittenden County. And so this would enable READY to work with those municipalities and small and businesses and things of that sort to kind of draw down that funding they need to support their business and support the goals of READY. And then we have a list of just, we didn't make, oh, there's one thing here in the priority projects. READY was under the impression that their list of priority project was an inclusive list, not an exclusive list. And so they fund projects primarily in these like milk plants, outdoor recreation, value-added food, farm operations, co-working businesses, commercial composting, and restoration, rehabilitation of historic buildings. They primarily fund things in this area, but they also support things more broadly in the kind of historic preservation, other critical economic needs, outdoor recreation, agriculture more broadly. And so they asked just to kind of conform this language to their practice, and the Senate Agriculture, agreed to kind of remove that ambiguity there and just kind of conform that to their practice, which is these are their priority areas that they should be focusing on. But, you know, more broadly, they can support agricultural initiatives and other economic development initiatives in areas that they serve.
This was presented to us, I think, language maybe was presented to us by the Housing Conservation Board. They came in a month or so ago and said, just giving us a heads up, they were taking it to Senate Ag. They wanted us to know. I don't think we had any concerns at the time.
And there's a little conforming piece to get your name correct in this report.
Okay.
Karen, you may be looking for a straw poll.
Yeah.
Um,
Got one more
quick piece. This amends S60. So this was in S323 that you folks passed out to amend S60 to conform with the governor's change. So you're familiar with that. This is the same language. And so it's, I think that they were taking a belt and suspenders approach to making sure that this gets over the line. And so that's why this is here. And then the effective date, the entire act will take effect on July 1st, 2026.
Okay.
That's the
Are
amendment.
you okay with explaining the fifth one there, the language in F60?
Yeah, this is a small technical change.
Yeah. And the governor, I think you can say the governor signed F60, but with the understanding that we were going to make this change somewhere before we left town.
That was their ask, right?
It was the
Right,
governor's
yeah.
ask, yeah.
You tell them Jed made us.
Made us do it.
And okay, good. And then the sixth is reader assistance and effective date first. Any?
That's a change. Was it upon passage?
Oh, no, the change was the equine study piece was effective July 1st, 2027. And then when they turned it into a study, we had to change it back to just everything is July 1st, 2026.
Okay. Any questions for Ledge Council? You were next door. Did they straw poll this, Bradley?
They did not straw poll it. So they still had to hear from Ezra, and they took a different bill in between hearing from me and Ezra.
Okay.
So I'm gonna walk over there.
Okay. This is going to be on the floor before lunch. There's, I think, 4 bills that hopefully they haven't finished 3 of them yet. But so it could be coming up fairly quickly, Greg.
I do have,
Can I make a motion that we stop all this?
Yes, and then is there further discussion?
I just have one.
Yeah.
This is mostly for my purposes but on the ready part of the bill, the main thing, I just want to make sure I have it figured out, is that this is basically expanding it to, the wording is, located throughout the state, right?
Yeah, it's
So that
community.
means that it may not be a town of 5,000.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So it could be in Chittenden County, it could be in Rutland.
Brigham Amendment.
Yeah. And
Coming for me.
Representative, did you get my notes that I sent you?
I haven't looked yet.
Okay, yeah, I sent you an email with a section by section. And so you'll have that as well.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so motion to straw poll, that we would concur with the Senate proposal of amendment to H 942. Any other discussion?
We want to do it just by show of hands.
Let's, why don't we have Jed just read the names, Jed? You don't have to write everything down. You just want to read the names.
So far, I don't have a fresh set of.
Because they can vote.
Yeah.
Casey two vote on loved ones.
That's the problem.
You don't need writing
Okay, straw poll, Jonathan Bartholomew, how do you vote?
Yes.
Michelle Boslin, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jack Brigham,
Yes.
Gregory Greg Burt,
Yes.
Jed Lipsky, yes. Richard Nelson,
Yes.
John O'Brien.
Yes.
Chair David Durfee,
Yes.
vote is 8-0-0. And will Gregory Burt be the reporter?
Yeah. Yeah. Good. All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And Don and Michelle, thanks for zooming in.
Maybe